We are here. It is the Tour Championship, PGA Tour FedEx Cup finale. We are talking props. Geoff Fienberg with Joe Idone, oddschecker.com. You find Joe over at Tour Picks. Joe, I don't know when they invented the FedEx Cup. What, we're probably talking over 15 years ago. They probably would have hoped that 15 years later, I don't know, would go over better than a fart in the wind. But here we are all these years later, and it's the end of August. I don't think people care. Guys know that they've got only so much equity they've got before they want to hibernate on Sundays. So they got a couple more weekends of family time left. Never really resonated. You could argue the format, but nonetheless, here we are. Certainly ain't no Super Bowl of golf, but we're here.
It doesn't feel like it, and you're right. It hasn't really resonated. I have my complaints. It's irritating to say the very least. But and I think you made this point earlier this week. Once we get to like Friday afternoon, it all does kind of start to feel normal. It doesn't feel fair, but it starts to feel normal. We do have massive payouts. I mean, they're basically paying a fourth place is $4 million. It's basically winning a live event for fourth. So the money is there this week. The incentive is there. We're now down to 29 guys in the field. So there will certainly be plenty of opportunities to find some decent props. I know that you've got a couple on the way.
Yeah, certainly. And as you mentioned there, as discussed, I guess, a couple times this week already by me, it's frustrating for us. And if you're watching this, you like to, make bets and you're pretty invested in tournaments before they start. But for the straight casual, I think by the time they tune in on the weekend, the starting strokes are kind of a totally forgotten entity, unless it's one of Scheffler or Cantlay being an absolute wagon. But it's highly probable that by the time people do want to tune in on the weekend, it is a pretty, you got 3-4 names, best in the world going at it for a huge payday. Cash grab golf doesn't resonate. I don't think cash grab golf resonates on the real tour, let alone on the exhibition tour. So we're here. Let's get at it, right into it. No starting strokes. If you want starting strokes, I did a video with Rick Gaiman at Rick Rungood already. It is in the feed. Hard to feel like in that market, there's more than a handful of guys truly in play. No starting strokes. You could make the case everybody is in play, Joe. But let me ask you this question off the top of it. Are you concerned, like, for the higher level players, I'm hyper concerned about the lack of the ambiguity around no starting strokes. I don't think your Rahms, your Rorys, your guys who are so proven and have won everything that they care. But the younger players, maybe you could find guys that there's tremendous value in the no starting strokes market. They just want 4 great rounds. They're not real, ambiguity or not, I think it could favor them.
Yes, I agree with that. I talked yesterday on my other show with a PGA Tour caddy who kind of said the same thing. The other factor is like, with no starting strokes, I'm looking a little further down the board. You wonder, is Scotty Scheffler or Cantlay, should they open up a 4 or 5 stroke lead? Do they kind of rest on what they've earned and just try to get home with pars and shoot an even par round? I think there are a lot of players further down the board, given that you only have 28 other guys other than yourself to beat. You want guys that can get hot. You want guys that can make a lot of birdies. And can they make a run at this thing to actually win? Maybe not. But if they can get to 16, 17 under par over the course of 3 days, they're absolutely live in this format with this given prop.
But you have to respect the fact that there is a great deal of ambiguity and they don't even know where they're running in it at all. So in that market, which seems to be the very popular market, the more popular market this week, despite the ambiguity, it is still a prop. It would still be considered that prop. And you look at some of the guys sort of, farther down the board per se. I'm just going to go right to the deeper middle. A Max Homa and a Billy Horschel. They stand at 50-1. It's a 29-man event. If this event had 70, 80 guys, they'd probably still be 50 to 1. A guy that I have my eye on, just for argument's sake, a Victor Hovland, he's 35 to 1. Well, a couple weeks ago, he was like 25 to 1 to win a 125 man tournament. Now, I know there are so many different layers to this, but in the end, the ask is the same as those where you said be the low man in a 72 hole situation. I know you have found what you deem some value and some hot hands near that back of the board.
Yeah, you mentioned one of them to start. I like Max Homa. He's 55 to 1. I think that that's a fair price in any tournament for Max Homa, given the current state of his game. He's got 4 wins. He's won at the Riv. He's won at Wells Fargo twice. I think that Quail Hollow is a very good comp to Eastlake in terms of the player fit that tends to succeed there. We've obviously know about Rory. Homa's obviously in that line as well. Won this course, won the Wells Fargo this year as well at a different course when they had it at the TPC course, which I also think doesn't make a bad comparative course. But 55 to 1 over at Caesars. Like, here's the other thing, Geoff. This odds checker grid is coming in huge with this particular prop because there are some massive differences in a lot of the markets and how they're shaping up. 28 to 1 is the DraftKings price on Max Homa. You can get double that at 55 to 1 over at Caesar Sportsbook. Max Homa is my first one, and I'll hit you quickly before I hand it over to you on my second. Sahith. The guy just makes a lot of birdies. There's a feeling, and you mentioned some of that narrative earlier of just a guy who's gotten himself into this event in his rookie year who wasn't expecting it. A free rolling type vibe to Sahith this week. He's now in the Masters. He's now in the Tournament of Champions. Doors are opening left and right during his rookie season. He led the PGA Tour in birdies this year. So if you're looking for a guy who's got to outduel 28 others, I feel pretty good about his chances of getting hot. He continues to have that good round. Top 15's one of 4 other players in both the previous 2 FedEx Cup events. The form is there. The confidence is there. He's 80 to 1. There's not a lot of guys to beat. If he can have a couple of really low rounds, I do feel like this is a manageable expectation for him. And at 80 to 1 in a shortened field, it's a number that I love.
Again, it's those young players like a Sahith, and I'd even argue a player who's had a season like Morikawa, Joe, who would really just for himself want to put 4 quality rounds together. You see him as high as like 8 to 1. And when you consider what his number is in full fields to be the best player that week, you can find some comparative value. Player like Sahith, ambiguity or not. How do I put this? No doubt everyone knows the placings are worth a lot of money. But when you haven't sort of won, a lot of these guys have already won a lot of money. And every place is worth like a new house for a guy like Sahith, or one for his parents, one for his brother. Literally, you get inside that top like 8, it feels like every spot is worth at least $1 million, let alone the bigger gaps as you get sort of inside that top 3. I don't disagree with you at all. I don't have your stones though, Joe, because still over 72 holes, who's winning them? The best players. I'm taking the 11 to 1 on Xander Schauffele. Eastlake is his jam. Form, he can ride it. That's the pick for me, and I couldn't resist 35 to 1 Victor Hovland to be the low 72 man. Just want to see, like Morikawa, just want to see these, like, they for themselves. 4 rounds, high quality golf. Unfortunately, won't mean you get a trophy. You can cash some bets. But we saw Na split one of these last year, Kevin Na. So it's possible for the guys like you mentioned, Sahith, Max Homa, to do it. We're going into the other markets, and I'm going into Adam Scott territory. What a finish to a season that I've been putting air in Scott's tires all year. So I'm not going to miss the last ride, at least from these prop markets placings. Minus 125 top 20. Stroke starting. Top 20 in a 29-man event. I'm not worried about what he would need to make up to get inside that top 20. It's like betting on a basketball team down 2-0 and with 11 minutes left in the first quarter. Plenty of time for that one to take care of himself. Want to be a little bolder? You might see me even put a nibble of that on the top 10 plus 550 when using the odds checker grid. We saw that great up and down, which got him into East Lake. Some of us were worried that might even be in the career PGA Tour finale moment of Adam Scott. It was not. I'm all in on Scott, the way he's striking, the way he's putting, sets up beautifully for a big week.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to go in that top 10 market as well with starting strokes. It's like there's a couple of guys at 3 under, which is technically tied for 11th, but as soon as they tee this thing off, they're already in the top 10 because of the Will Zalatoris withdrawal. I mean, you've got Thomas and Fitzpatrick, like major champions this year that are starting this far back. Something to say kind of more along the lines of about the system and how I think that there's flaws in it. But they've both had great years. I'm going to go Justin Thomas is plus 110 over at Caesars. Again, another good number that Caesars Sportsbook has. He's minus 145 over at DraftKings. So almost a 55-point swing there in the advantage over at Caesars. Awesome in terms of tee to green game. We know how fantastic he is. When you look at long-term form, particularly at East Lake, which initially I didn't think would be a great course fit for him, Geoff. He's proven otherwise. He's third in the field in terms of ranking and strokes gained at East Lake behind only Xander and Rory. I feel like he can make up ground. Given that it's basically an even odds bet at plus 110, he's already technically starting inside that top 10. If he can have an above average week, he should be able to creep inside there and secure that bet. That's my final pick of the week. JT plus 110.
Yeah, I do expect, I might be naive enough, Joe, to think that those JTs, your Roms, your Rorys, they're going to nibble into this thing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You go shoot 5 under, Scotty shoots 2, and then all of a sudden there's still 3 rounds left, and you're like, these guys are right where they need to be based on their pedigree. I'm Geoff Fienberg. That is Joe Idone at Tour Picks. Thank you, oddschecker.com/US. We'll always be back talking more golf bets here at Oddschecker. Maybe the next time you see Joe and I, not really sure. There's a live event coming up. I know there is no actual off season. We're going to flip this calendar over pretty quickly, folks. Thanks for watching. Smash the like.